Okay, let's dive into a story that it doesn't seem to make any sense. It's about a janitor, a finance executive, and an $8 million fortune. And this story, it reveals a simple, almost uncomfortable truth about money. And guess what? It has very little to do with how smart you are. All right, so I want you to picture this guy, Ronald Read. He lived this totally ordinary, quiet life in rural Vermont. He worked at a gas station for a while and later as a janitor at a JCPenney. You'd never, ever look at him and think, financial genius. And look, he had zero special advantages. No fancy MBA, no secret stock tips from his buddies on Wall Street. He didn't even have a flashing lifestyle. He drove a used car and was known for wearing the same old coat for years. From the outside, you just assume he was barely getting by. But when he passed away, his will dropped a bombshell on his entire community. Turns out, he had quietly and patiently built up a fortune of, get this, $8 million. Yeah, $8 million. So the obvious question is, how on earth did he do it? Okay, so this is where the story gets really wild. Around the same time Ronald Read is doing his thing, you've got this other guy, a finance pro we'll call Richard. And Richard had everything, right? The MBA from a top school, the high-powered job, a massive salary, and yet he died completely broke. So that's the big puzzle we're gonna crack open today. How does a janitor end up with a fortune while a Wall Street insider with every advantage loses it all? It wasn't about brains or education, it was something way more fundamental, and that's exactly what we're about to get into. The entire paradox hinges on this single powerful idea. When it comes to money, your behavior is a more powerful asset than your brain. How you act is more important than what you know. Yeah, this is the absolute heart of it. We're taught to think finance is like physics, full of hard formulas and data. But it's not. It's way more like psychology. It's a soft skill where being emotionally disciplined can literally make you wealthier than being a genius. So let's dig into our first big lesson here. It's all about paying the price. See, everyone wants the awesome returns from investing, but almost no one is willing to actually pay the price for it. And that price? Well, it has a name. Yep, that price is volatility. And this is such a key mindset shift. When the market tanks, it feels like we're being punished, like we did something wrong. But volatility isn't a fine. It's just the price of admission. It's the ticket you have to buy to get on the ride that leads to long-term returns. Simple as that. No fee, no ride. Okay, to really get a feel for what this fee is like, let's talk about a company we all know, like Netflix. If you got in early and just held on, you would have made an absolute fortune. But that holding on part, man, that is the hard part. Let's look at what that actually feels like. So imagine your life savings are in this one stock. You open your account and you see this, down 40%. Your stomach just drops, right? Every news channel is screaming that the company's toast. What do? This is where most people start to freak out. And then it gets even worse, down 80%. Now, this has actually happened to Netflix stock multiple times, on its way to making people incredibly wealthy. This right here, this gut-wrenching feeling, that's the price of admission. It's extreme discomfort. It's that nagging doubt that you've just made the biggest mistake of your life. And that right there is the key. Your spreadsheet can be as calm and logical as you want, telling you to buy and hold. But your emotions, they're screaming at you to sell everything and run. The real money in investing doesn't go to the person with the fanciest spreadsheet. It goes to the person who can just endure that psychological pain. Which brings us right back to our janitor and our executive. Ronald Read, he got this. Maybe not from a textbook, but he understood it. He bought good companies and just held on. Through decades of crazy ups and downs, he paid the price. Richard, the expert, he tried to be smarter than the market. He tried to predict the dips and avoid the price, but when he couldn't, he panicked, made emotional moves, and lost it all. All right, let's move on to our second lesson. This one is about probably the single most dangerous word in all of finance, more. It's a psychological trap that has destroyed more fortunes than you can imagine, even for people who have already won the game. This is such a classic human trap, right? Let's say you're a doctor, you're making $500,000 a year. Life is good, you feel successful, but then you go to a party and you meet a CEO who makes $10 million. All of a sudden, that $500,000 salary feels small.
Nothing about your life has actually changed, but your happiness just evaporated because someone else moved the goalposts on you. This really is one of the most critical rules in money. That social comparison game, it's a battle you can never, ever win. There's always going to be someone with a bigger boat. And if you don't define your own goalposts, if you don't decide what enough is for you, you will end up risking things you have and need, like your reputation, your family, your freedom, for things you don't have and don't even need. See, Ronald Read knew his enough. He didn't need the mansion or the yacht. For him, he had won the game, so he just stopped playing so aggressively. Richard, on the other hand, was totally trapped in that more cycle, always chasing more returns, more status, and that pushed him to take bigger and crazier risks until the whole thing just blew up in his face. Okay, on to our final lesson. This one's all about a battle between two very different mindsets. It explains why pessimism always sounds so much smarter, but why it's actually optimism that builds real long-term wealth. I mean, just think about it for a second. When you hear some guru predicting doom and gloom, a market crash, a disaster, it sounds like they've done their homework, right? It sounds urgent, intelligent. But the optimist who says, over time, things will probably get better, they can sound kind of naive, almost clueless. We are just biologically wired to pay way more attention to threats. And, of course, the media just pours gasoline on this fire. The news doesn't make money from a headline that says, things are slowly and steadily getting a little bit better. No way. They make money from market on the brink of collapse. Progress is slow. It's boring. Disasters are fast. They're exciting. And let's be honest, fear just sells a lot better than hope. So when you put all these pieces together, you realize Ronald Read's secret wasn't some complicated formula. It was just a simple toolkit of behaviors. He had the patience to let his money grow, the humility to know when he had enough, the guts to handle the wild market swings, and the wisdom to just tune out all that pessimistic noise. And that right there is the ultimate lesson. It's the one that explains everything about the janitor and the executive. Being good with money isn't about your IQ, it's about your temperament. The ability to just stay calm when everyone else is losing their minds, that is the single most valuable financial skill you can possibly have. So if a janitor, a guy with no special training, can quietly build an $8 million fortune just by mastering a few simple behaviors, it really leaves us with just one final, very personal question to think about. What's stopping you?